Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first live stream of the Platformers community. I'm Udi Chofesh, and this is
Woo.
Guy Menachem. And
Hello.
today we are going to talk about platform adoption. Guy,
Yeah.
what do you like? Set the expectation for this webinar. What
Yeah.
are
So
we
what?
going to talk about? What is platform adoption? Why are we even talking about this?
Yeah. So one of the main things that we talked about is that in order to make a platform a successful platform, we do need users to use it, system to run on it, and it need to be adopted within the organization or the team. And without it, it doesn't really matter if your platform is a really good one or a scrappy one. If you don't have a real adoption with it, it's going to be a failure within the organization, going to be dropped out. We saw it in many organizations that sometimes their platform is thriving, not because it got the best tools or the best tech, but because they're able to drive adoption. While in others, we see that they don't have much tech, but or they do have a lot of tech, but there is not really adoption, and that makes it a failure within the organization. So today we are going to talk about how to drive platform adoption and make sure your organization, your platform is on the successful side of the platform.
Definitely. And before Guy will use his knowledge and experience to take us on this adoption journey, know that wherever you are watching us now, you can leave questions in the comments, and we'll leave time at the end to address all of them. And also follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, or join the community on Slack where we discuss other topics about platform engineering as well as adoption. And Guy, tell us what we're in for and take it away.
Yeah, so what we're going to talk about today is the critical of making it adoption be equal to success. If we don't have real adoption, it means that our platform is not successful one. Then we are going to talk about users and system and how we make sure that we start from the first login and make them into a champion within the organization, each one of the users of the platform or the system within the platform. Then we are going to talk about adoption strategies. What can be a good strategy to pick in order to make sure that your platform going to be well adopted? And then we are moving a little bit to talk about how can we pick up our first goal, because any kind of adoption is driven by goals. And from that point, we are going to talk a little bit about success and failure stories. Why? Because we want to learn from other people if they were able to make that successful or failed one. So we are going to start from why is it critical, and then going to show you a lot of examples and make sure that you are on the success story and your platform is going to be in the success story side and not going to be a big failure. So let's start and talk about why adoption is really critical, and it's in the critical path for you. First of all, a platform success really depends on adoption. Why is that? Because in order to users and systems to be thriving within the platform, we do need people and system to adopt it. For example, if we don't have any users in our platform or portal, it doesn't make any sense for them to come over the day after, the week after, the month after, just any other application you're using on our smartphone or PCs. And adoption is really critical in order to make a valuable and beneficial and positive trend to your own platform. It also makes sure that the things you have developed and added to your platform actually being used and nothing goes into waste. The second thing is that usage is a really critical KPI to stakeholders. So usually when we have a platform, we want some stakeholders, for example, managers, or maybe even C-level, CTO, VP R&D, VP of engineering, everyone to take a look at your platform and say, okay, this is worth the investment to make it better. Is it worth the investment to actually uh, um, drive this direction, make sure the organization use that? And the critical KPI they're looking for is actually usage or adoption. And that makes them really take decision into your side and what you want to get. So if you have zero adoption, zero usage within your platform, it will be very hard to convince them that you want more resources or you want to launch a new project or add a new capability to your platform. But if you do have a lot of usage within it, so it will be very easy for them to take the decision. And that will make you as platform engineer very successful. It also will make the developers and people running system within the organization to actually love you, and that will be very beneficial to make the management in the organization to take decision in your side and help you like to make personal progress, and that's great. The last thing is that value does not equal adoption. And what we mean by that is that it really doesn't matter if there is a lot of value within your platform and it operates well and people, I know, get a lot of reliability, security by running it, or they are using the portal and now they're able to do a flow that does not exist any other way. It doesn't matter how many value you have in the platform. It does not make sure it will drive adoption. The opposite is kind of true. Like if you don't have any value, it means that no one is going to use and adopt it. So we need to invest on both directions. One is to create more value within our platform, and then to make sure users are actually adopting it and using it. And this what I mean is not equal. So it's not always going the opposite directions. Sometimes if you don't have value, there is no adoption, but sometimes you have a lot of value, but no one actually using it. And that's big problem. And that means how much critical it is for you to make sure that adoption is maybe the top one or the top two in your priorities. So you always need to think, should I push for more adoption, or should I go and develop some more capabilities? And that's a critical decision. And what we are going to talk about today is how we are going to gain this adoption, how we are going to make sure that in order to push adoption, we not only create value, we also able to drive that, we also able to show that to our management stakeholders, and we make our platform successful.
I think you had a great metaphor that really sums it up when you said that platforms without users are like dead malls, like as an abandoned malls. They are empty and sad, and I think this is really true. And it's worth highlighting that adoption is critical because it's a baseline for everything. Because even if it's like a really good platform, has lots of value in it, and no one's using it, like what's the point? So yeah, just wanted to point that out.
Exactly. So we don't want your platform to become a dead mall, or I know, like empty aquarium, or anything that is empty from life. It doesn't really matter if you have really good discount at the store this mall.
I might go if it's like a really good one, but it will be creepy.
That's true. That's true. So what we're going to do next is going to talk about the journey of the user, and then also talk about the journey of the system. Why? Because sometimes we do refer IDPs our internal developer platform, and sometimes it's referred to a portal. So we want to make sure that we understand both flow and what is the flow the user experience over the lifetime. It's not a single login, but what is the lifetime of the user within the platform. So first, we're going to take a look about the user. Usually, it's more relevant to portals, and then we're going to switch into the system itself. So when a user starts, user does it first login, right? We call it acquisition. Why? Because we want to bring users in the platform. It can be because they saw the platform on some of the, I don't know, monthly tech talks, in the company and now they want to use it. Maybe they heard from a friend that, oh, they're working on a really nice portal or something. You have to take a look on that. And they're clicking on a link someone sent them. Or even you, your friends, or someone, like you send a message on Slack or Teams or whatever, instant messaging, and say, oh, maybe you should check that because this is exactly what you want to do. And you are able to do that with the platform. And that means we acquire the user. That means the user actually going to do its first login into your platform. And from that point, we do need to do two things. One is to provide value and then make sure the user comes back again. And this is where adoption comes in. It's not about like hearing about your platform and doing the first login. Is how we can create multiple sessions and make the user adopt the platform. Why is that good? Because a single login does not matter anything. We do want to make a continuous and constant login through whatever time frame we have selected. It can be a weekly logins, monthly logins, bi-weekly logins. It doesn't really matter. But if a user actually uses the platform on a weekly basis, that's adoption. And if we were able to make user to do multiple sessions within the time frame that we are looking for, and it can be like 3 sessions a year, it's have to be more than that, then the user actually moves or change to be a promoter of the platform. Why is that? Because then someone asks the user, like, how do you do that? And then he tells to, or she tells to the people within the team, oh, I'm using this portal platform. That's make it much, much easier. Why don't you use it? And that makes them a promoter and champions of your platform and actually advocating why people should use the platform. And that's great because we don't really know when user changing from multiple session to a promoter or champion within for our platform. But when this change happening, you can see a lot of drive, motivation, and a lot of positive flow or atmosphere around your platform. And if you have enough people that are going to promote your platform, you are in a really successful path to make it great and be well adopted within the organization. I don't think that all the users should be a promoters, but you want to have a critical mass of users that are going to promote it within the organization. If you are able to make management, architect, principal engineers to love your platform, this is a key point to make it successful. So we do need to make sure that users come back after the first login and have multiple sessions. And at least some of them, we want all of them, hopefully, but it's really hard to make them promoters. And this is basically a funnel. First login, how we make them come back, how we make them to promote our platform. And that can be driven only by value and constant value, not only one-time value. Now what I want us to look at is, Udi, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to say that, like you said, not all champions are equal. And if you expect developers to be a champion, so you will need many of the developers in the organization using and loving your platform. But if you have like someone more senior or in a more executive role, then you get more chances of success in driving adoption. Or if you get someone who's like really obsessed, that really loves the platform and like keeps pushing it any way he can, and that can be anyone. I think maybe even like a senior developer can become like a fanatic that basically starts a cult within the organization. And before we move on to the system side, do you want to share maybe a story from your experience, like where you saw a platform gaining traction, and like what was the like real life things that drove that?
Yeah. So I think that we have like good examples and bad examples. Like I have a friend, he works for a really big company, and what he told me, like basically, I don't need the DevOps team. I don't need them to do anything. If I do need to create something, if I do need to, I know, I search for a specific metric or dashboard that I want to see what go into the pipeline of my services, I don't need anyone. I just go to a single page. I have all the information required in there, and that's basically what is the main flow that he does. What was really amazing about it is that he even haven't promoted the platform within his organization. He actually told me he promote the platform of his own company for me. And now I'm going like to people, like I don't want to tell the name of the company. And I tell them, oh, that I heard they have a really nice platform that everyone can use. And the promotion happened because of that is really impactful. On the other side, we met like one company, and they told us something like, we do have Backstage, it's installed. Two times a year I go there, I click on the button to do something that can be created only from this Backstage, and that's it. And then you listen there and say, okay, they invested so much resources to create this flow. It's a unique flow within the organization. I'm not sure how many people are aware this flow actually exists, and they don't want to invest any resource in this platform. So you see, not only that you don't have a promoter that's going to tell you to say to you like we have a really good tool and we have a really good infrastructure that we want people to use, it's quite the opposite. Like multiple sessions, they do maybe 1 or 2 sessions a year. They promote the other way that we want to remove it if we will be able to create the same flow on the other side. So there are many examples. We saw even one company that they have a really good Kubernetes platform, like not related to a portal. They do have a lot of capabilities. They installed everything and make sure it's really well tied into what they need to run. And it came into the point that no one actually using it. Because the service creation was a little bit harder, and it requires from developer to migrate their own services into the new platform, and they haven't had a really good migration path from the existing services to move into the platform. So they invested so much time creating this platform, creating this tool, creating this a lot of infrastructure, connectivity, integration, and no one actually using it. So, and that came from a platform engineer. So it was a sad story of someone that actually invested so much resources to make something not work.
A really sad story. And there's also like a prerequisite or a step before talking about driving adoption, and that's figuring out whether you actually need a platform in your organization, because it doesn't make sense for everyone, not for any size and not for any use case. So I guess some people skip that step and then find out the hard way that value doesn't equal adoption.
Exactly. You don't want to go into a stage that you deployed Backstage and that's it. Okay, we deployed this tool, and now what?
Yeah. No, like enablement. Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
And okay, now let's talk about the system.
The system is a little bit different because users using it, but it can be something that a little bit abstracted for them. So they do the onboarding. For example, we created a well-designed platform with everything on the majority steps that looks really good, and now we want to onboard. And the first onboarding is the first service that's going to the platform. Usually, the platform provides something that is unique, and this is why it's so like this is why people trying to be onboarded, or you have a friend, or you convince them somehow to come into it. But then come really the growth stage. How do we can make it grow? How we make sure that the main system and not only the services that no one care about actually going live to production. So we start with one, maybe two services. Now we need to make these people trust us to put in a full system on the platform. And from that point, what's going to happen is that we are moving from the technical side, the technical growth of onboarding new services, into a very process human level, when the same people actually onboarded into the platform are going to be promoters of our platform, because then they're going to say, first of all, we are going to onboard all of our new services, all of our new component into this platform. And second of all, they're going to tell us to other people within the organization that this platform is so useful, so reliable, so secure. I don't need to care about anything. Everything is out of the box. I just give them code and basically that's it. And that make them promoters. And let's think about, for example, organizations that have a lot of business units, and every business unit's got its own or engineering organization, and basically each one of them, you can actually conquer each one of the engineering organization, make sure that everyone is going to be onboarding for that. So we are starting with the onboarding, we are going to grow, make sure that we have a full system, and then we convert and make sure that the champion, the people promoting us within the organization. And now we understand the flow, and now we want to understand what we want to optimize for in order to make sure users actually promoting and using our platform. So how do we measure that? How do we measure how many users use the system, having some capabilities or adding things into there, and what will we show to the KPI to the management in order to make them sponsor our journey? So first of all is metrics tools. Metrics tools, observability tools from any kind. It can be, if you're using a portal, it can be actually user real-time monitoring, like web browser monitoring, analytics, like Google Analytics, Mixpanel, whatever, that can take events from the UI, understand how many users, who are the heavily users within the system, how frequent their logins and sessions. And then you can understand a lot about the users' patterns of usage. On the other side, we need some tool that maybe will drive our platform if it's a system-based platform. So, for example, if we are talking about onboarding new services and new systems, we do want to get some metrics from them. How much resources they spend, how they're in production, how many critical flows we got in our system, how many of our, let's say, money-making services within the company actually using this platform. And those kind of metrics really drives decision-making of how we collect information and how we show and present them to the relevant people. It also helps us to convince people to onboard to the platform. For example, if you are going to someone that have a huge system going to be onboarded, it's going to replace actually the core business logic of the organization, really critical. And he's going to come to you and ask something like, how many services you have, how much critical processes you have within the platform, and you don't have the metrics for that, that's going to be a really, really bad thing, because the decision they're going to make is not to onboard to you, to someone else maybe, or to the previous infrastructure, whatever. But if you are going to say, we have 10 critical processes that cannot work beside our platform, we increase the velocity of the developers by that. We make this thing really abstracted for them, and our platform is 100% uptime since in the last 2 years. So he's going to say, okay, it's worth to invest and try to figure out how we can onboard into this platform.
Guy, we have a question from Adam that I think is worth answering now and not later. So Adam is saying, hey, yo, it would be cool if you could talk about some metrics that can be defined that represent the success of the value stream of a platform. And yes, that would be cool indeed, Guy, if you have some metrics, for example.
Sure. So let's break it down. I talked a little bit about it, but let's break it down and make sure it's really, really clear. If we are going to be a portal-based, we are going to test sessions, events, and what is meaningful for us. For example, processes that were accomplished using the system. If we're able to see, show, and then tell the story of how many users using us on a weekly basis, how many sessions can be provided using platform, and how many value we provided using this portal, that's going to be really valuable, making sure that first of all, you know that you are successful within your users, but also you know how much using a specific process or a flow that you worked on. And more than that, you can go and ask if you can add a new capability because users are actually using it on a daily basis. And based on that, you can take usage, for example, weekly active users, monthly active users, specific processes that ended using the platform, specific clicks. For example, if you connected free systems into the platform, and users are clicking it on daily basis, that's great, and you should measure that. So
rage clicking.
Rage click, for example, rage click is something that can be measured, as Udi said, on product metrics. And it's really interesting to see that if you have a lot of rage clicks, something within the screen is maybe not working well. When we are talking about system-based platform, we want to go into the processes from the other side. So it doesn't have to be a matrix that calculated from, Prometheus Grafana metrics. It can be something that you take down. It can be availability metrics, uptime. It can be time spent. For example, like how much time we saved because we onboarded that process. It can be what we accelerated and what challenge we solved. I think that later it's going to be much clearer how do we define that and how we solve that challenge. And then we want to aggregate that into value stream within the organization. So if, for example, to onboard a new service within the current infrastructure, that costs 10 days and 5 tickets, and using the platform, it takes only 1 day. And so we saved 9 days of people working, right? It's like 9 days. It's a lot of time and money. And then we can multiply the number of services on the board to the platform. And this is the value or the sum of the value we can provide or provided so far. If we increase the security, we can measure that. And then, for example, we don't have security on the previous infrastructure, and now we have static code analysis, and we will be able to make users and make services to actually be more safe to known vulnerabilities. This is something that we should count for. We should go into the security manager within the company and tell them, this is what we did only using the platform, only using the tools. So we can define and measure what value we want to provide. Adam, I hope it answered the question. If not, just comment more in the chat and I will explain more.
Yeah, and it's also important to be able to correlate, because if some business metric or something or some goal was achieved, but there's no evidence that anyone used the platform, so it will be hard to draw that value stream and say that it was thanks to you. So yeah, Adam says, yep, thanks. So good job, Guy. You explained it well. And yeah, so like we said already many times in this webinar, usage is critical, and being able to measure it is critical, because otherwise you won't be able to correlate the adoption to the value that it's supposed to bring to the organization later on. Cool.
Exactly. So let's talk about what are the strategies that will help us to find what is the critical path and how we can make adoption increase. So the first thing that we need to take a look when we try to figure out what's going to be our strategy to gain adoption, it should be what is the critical path for our users, for our system that we want to optimize. For example, if your users needs to open 10 tabs in order to find out what is the deployment status, and they do it 5 times a day, and they're always alternating between the tabs. They go into the build system, to the deploy system, to the metric system, and maybe they have some geo system that will tell them how many clusters already deploy all over the world. So going into one system will be the critical path for them. And if you'll be able to correlate and aggregate this information into a single dashboard, they obviously going to use it. If they have, and this means a critical path because developers want to deploy as many times a day or to integrate. It can be CI or CD or whatever. But if they have only one screen or 2 screens that already aggregate all this information, it's not really a critical path. It's not going to solve a real problem. And this is why we want to find out what is critical, what is the longest path, and how much time they spend on it. So being there, being in the critical path, make sure that people are going to use that because we're going to solve time, or we are going to do something that they really not able to achieve without that. Example for not being in a critical path, for example, for a system is not to provide any added value or provide really small added value. Let's go to the example from the previous slide. If we are going, and if a critical path in the organization is to add new service, and it takes, I don't know, even 3 days, and we are going to make it into 3 hours, that's critical path for a lot of people within the organization. If it's currently going to take 3 hours, and we can maybe optimize it to 2, that will be not really critical for them. And it doesn't mean they're not going to achieve what they want using your platform. Then we want to add something that will give us unfair advantage. And unfair advantage is really something that cannot be seen within the organization. What do I mean by that? Something that if you take the sum of all the parts that currently used by the company or by the team, this is going to be something much bigger and maybe multiple, can be provide multiple value for it. An unfair advantage is something that is not easy to achieve, but it means that you can provide really unique value that all the competitors, and when I'm saying competitors, the competitors that currently exist within the organization, competitors that maybe we can buy a tool that would do that for us, any type of things like that will not be matched to the value you can provide, and that will make you unfair within the market. For example, if you add a flow that does not exist within the organization, and your portal or platform is the only one that's able to achieve it, this is an unfair advantage because no one's going to use the other solution. So for example, let's say that you have a portal and what you want is to give just-in-time access. So people can access production only if they access, and then they have access for 2 hours. If they don't have access to production, and this is the only way they will get access to production, that's unfair advantage. Anytime they're going to do that, they're going to use your tool or your portal. Even if you're going to bring a new tool, that new tool, it will take time, it will not be easy and streamlined to their experience. it will be good, but not good enough. So you're always one step ahead from any competitor in your organization. For a system, it can be a capability. For example, maybe you want to deploy a system only on specific cloud provider. It can be as stupid as it seems, or or a specific region within the world on on-prem clusters, because this is what their system need to achieve. Or let's say you are very distributed system and they want to be all over the world, and your platform is the only one that actually can help them to achieve that. So they don't have any other solution. So it's unfair advantage for your platform, and that will make it really, really successful. So always think, if you are adding something, what's going to be the advantage for it.
It's a very sneaky term, and I like it. and there's also the qualitative metric that's worth harvesting from the users of the platform. And that's something that might not be measured, but it's also something that's worth doing, and that's talking to the developers of the end users of the platform and asking them about their experience and hearing in their own words. And if they say that using the platform makes them better than the peers or someone in another team that's not using it, then that's also a good indication that's maybe not as measurable as some of the metrics that the guy mentioned earlier, but it's also something that everyone who's a platform engineer should be doing, and not just looking at dashboards, but also speaking with the end users and creating those feedback cycles that will improve the platform as a product, create more value, drive even more adoption, and that's what the platform is for at the end of the day, right?
Exactly, and I think something that we haven't talked, and is really good that you mentioned that, is this continuous feedback and continuous getting feedback and improve. Because sometimes you even, I know, did 3 steps but not on the right direction, and this feedback or adjustment will make it really successful one. The last term
and
that we
it
want
also
to talk
create
about,
more advocates.
exactly. And the last thing we want to talk about is triggers. So in order to get over like continuous usage, we want to trigger something within the users that will make them come to the system. And I think that triggers are really good. And let's explain a little bit what are triggers. Triggers means that something is going to happen. It can be internal, so the user will understand, will have something that would happen. The manager requests them to do something, or they would have a task they need to achieve now. And internally, they will something internally will trigger them. Okay, I should go into the platform and do that. They should understand the value. They should understand, and it will be some kind of automatic thing to go into the platform. It's very hard to achieve that, but that's really good one. So their subconscious, so maybe, I know, muscle memory, keyboard memory, will make them to go directly into the platform. An external one can be alerts, messages, something external for them that will tell them to go into the platform. It can be a promoter, as Udi said, and it can be also Slack message, mail that the platform sent to them. Anything that you can think about that will make them use, even if you are a small team and you spreading email to all the engineers within the company, probably, maybe low percentage, but some of them is going to use the platform. But if the trigger is something that can provide them value again and again and again, that will make them use, and that will make them valuable.
We have another question from Shailandra. Hope I'm pronouncing it right. Not really sure if it's a question or the beginning of a haiku. Developer is hesitant to learn new tool. API sunset. Autumn leaves. Deprecated.
So it's true, like no one like
that's to be expected, right?
yeah, like I think everyone don't like it's always good to stay on the stable state, not change anything. On the other side, if we are able to go into their critical path and add some unfair advantage, there is no room to hesitate because it provides so much value. So even if you hesitate a little bit, it's going to make it so valuable to use it. And if they even heard for someone else that it's so useful, that even will make them be highly motivated and strongly convince them to use the platform. Let's take a different example from a different word. Let's say you're using VS Code or any JetBrains tool for as ID, and then someone come to you and say, "Oh, they have this new plugin. It's amazing. I don't like. It's I don't know something like it can show you the test results within your IDE on within the same function. So while you code, you can actually get and understand if tests are going to fail." And it's kind of hesitating, like you hesitate or you ask yourself, like, should I do that? Should I use it? Should I install it? But if the person that comes to you and say that is you are really value them and you really think that they are good in what they do, then you are going to use it on your own, and they are going to be the promoter of the platform of this tool. So there's no room to hesitate.
Yeah, and also the key here is that you're actually you will be using less tools. Like, this is what you should be saying. Like, you will learn this new tool, this platform, but once you onboard, once you understand how to use it, you will be using less tools. You'll be doing less context switching. You will have a lot of stuff automated for you and ready to use, and that will save you a lot of switching around between different contexts and all the stress that comes with it. And basically, the quality of life is what you're selling to the end users. I think like this is like the most enticing selling point that you can give them at the very beginning, like before talking about the actual value.
1% agreed. Let's move to the next one. Cool. So it looks very simple. Like, how do we pick our first goal to make sure that we adopt our user adopting our platform? So first, we need to pick and find a challenge. We can collect challenges from multiple directions, from DevOps teams, cloud infra teams, can be from engineering, developers, managers, everyone that actually knows what are the challenges and what we are trying to solve. Sometimes you maybe have your self-opinion on what can be a good challenge. Then we can understand how challenging it is. And if we are going to solve that, how valuable it's going to be for the users. And how much adoption we can get if we will be able to develop that in a really good quality or maybe in a medium quality. We want to find out what is the critical path that we are going into it, how we add unfair advantage for that, and maybe how we can create internal or external triggers to use it. And if all of that comes together, then we are going and trying to solve it. Any challenge that you want, we are trying to solve that if we understand what the solution is going to be. And based on the solution, we are going to drive adoption and make users love it. And if we are going to run this cycle of finding a challenge, solving it, and make sure that we drive adoption against it, and as Udi adds, we are going to go and ask for feedback, make sure we optimize that, and make sure user using it again, that makes us drive adoption within the organization. And even the fact that we are always picking the challenge and thing within the organization that's worth our time to solving it and optimizing for feedback and adoption, only by that, we are driving people to like our platform and using. So it's have also this, I know this, not only adoption, but kind of motivation of seeing how people are fired and pumped up to solve the solution and optimize for it. And they are also like you people and not only the tool they're using. So it sounds simple, but it's kind of hard to implement that. But always trying to implement, think, what is the challenge? How do we solve it? How we add unfair advantage? What value we can gain from it? What is the expected number of users we are going to get from that? And what is the metric we're trying to adopt? And based on that, solve it and drive the adoption. Cool. And what we want to end up is talk about success and failure stories. By the way, before we are moving into that, thank you for asking questions. And if you have more of them, just drop them in the chat. Udi catch them and when we are able to answer their questions, and that's super valuable.
Yes. Send me your questions, please.
Always. We would love to answer. So we are going to talk a little bit about success and failure stories. During this webinar, we have talked a little bit about a few examples that I shared with you, but now we are going to make it more structured. So, for example, in here, let's say a user tells us on a feedback that I'm not sure if to use the portal or the Jenkins job because both creates a service. So the user actually can use the Jenkins job that's already in place. It can use the portal. First of all, the user is not sure what's the value it's going to provide the portal or the Jenkins. So if we have added value or unfair advantage in you, we need to make sure user understands that, because there is no value if no one actually using it. So we duplicate, and let's say we don't have added value, and that's the big thing. So we duplicate the value from other system to our system, and that really makes it not valuable for the user. The second thing is that it's the same path. Like they can go into the Jenkins job, fill in 3, 4, 10 parameters, submit it, and they will get service creation within the organization. They can go into your portal, they can fill in not 10, but 9 parameters, which is 10% improvement, not much. Filling up parameters, it's usually kind of easy job. And it's the same path for them. So we, not only that we don't provide added value, we do not actually speed up the process and make it easier for them. And that makes this portal or this flow within the portal really not a successful or maybe even a failure one. Maybe, if we do have 10 different flows and we just add one into it, that's maybe make more sense. But then we just duplicate the value from one portal to the other. And that's not good. Moving to the second one. Creating a service with all the required networking configuration can be done only using our internal portal. So this is different user understands that there is some configuration that is unique for the networking part that can be done only the portal. Something that we see is that it's not clear, but it's kind of promoting our platform. So the user have high motivation to use the portal or the platform. The value that it creates really clear. So we understand that something can be done only using specific paths or specific flow that we took over it. And now no one can use other tool to make it. And like any networking is hard. Networking configuration is hard there. And making sure that we can provide this value, it's really, really valuable for the users. And what is also really clear now in here is that there is a clear path to get into the value. They don't need to go into 10 different windows, 10 different tabs, not sure what to click. They know what they're going to get, and now they're going to get it, and that makes them very highly motivated, mainly promoters users. Next story. My system runs for a while on the company new platform, and it's amazing. I get so many things out of the box, things I had to ask for months. And that's amazing, because we see, first of all, that this is 100% promotion. The new platform, it's amazing. But not only that it's a promotion and the user is a promoter, it's also clear what is the value. Instead of months, it's take maybe days or hours. We are not sure based on the sentence, but something is much faster. And also the user really got a clear value about what they're going to get and how they're going to get it. And that makes this platform a successful one. So if we are able to take over a process that took months, and now we make it run even 3 hours, but using our platform, that's really valuable, making sure that we have unfair advantage. And then we can actually win the user and make sure that they can adopt it.
And also another qualitative thing here is that the developer is feeling empowered that he can self-serve and get so many things out of the box, and he says he had to wait for them. So that means now he's more self-sufficient. He can do things on his own. He doesn't have to wait for like DevOps to build an image for him or something like that, and he can just push his code and like get up actions or CI pipeline and forget about it, and like feel ownership over it, because he's not like just sitting on his hands and waiting for someone else to do the next steps for him, right?
Yeah, exactly. And let's move to the last story of the day. Why do I need this portal? I can go to the systems that we have to check the status. So this portal actually does not solve a real challenge. If it's not a real challenge, there is nothing worth investment. And obviously, we have created unnecessary steps during this creation of portal platform, and that's really not valuable.
Surprise! There's another story.
And the last one for today, but this is the last one.
Final.
My high-level metrics, deployment status, latest changes, scoring in a single dashboard. I don't need 15 systems. And that's really a thing that we heard a lot, especially when implementing a portal. So by implementing the portal, we can find out that if we'll be able to aggregate all these 15 systems into one, we can solve a real challenge. It also drives productivity. And if we are able, we can measure productivity. Depends on what we want. It's really hard to measure that. So I don't want to go into that in this webinar, but if we can measure that, that will be super valuable. And I think the best thing is that users do not need to remember during the onboarding, during everything they want to know, they're going into your portal. They even don't need to know what are the 15 system and how to log into them. One screen, everything on it, and that's it. Real valuable, unfair advantage. Maybe it can create also external or internal trigger if something changed on the dashboard, and that's it. Well-adopted platform. And this is the final story for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Guy, for sharing all those stories and all that experience with everyone. And like you've really seen both ends, right? Of like as an end user, as an operator, you've seen successful platforms and failed platforms and mediocre platforms. So what do you think, like, what's the key takeaway? Like, if you, one thing that you want people to take away from this webinar?
that adoption should be one of the toppest free missions that you have as a platform engineer. And you should optimize and watch this webinar in order to understand how to optimize the adoption. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next time. And follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Join us on Slack, and we can continue this conversation over there. We also have our members-only zone on the platformers.community website, where we can have some more in-depth discussions and also exclusive events. See you around.
See you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.